here from Learn to Stargaze, just hiking around the Stargaze Nova Scotia property with my dog here, Stella, and making it back toward the truck, inspecting the trails because we haven't really been on them since the spring. And yeah, so I was just on Instagram Live and it was disconnecting a bunch, so I figured I'd give YouTube a try and see if this is any clearer. We've got 5 bars of 5G. I guess that doesn't matter for live streaming. It's hit or miss. Anyway, so the reason I came out here to Stargaze Nova Scotia in the first place was to add a battery to our solar power system because I want to just keep the computer on here full time so I can remote PC in and do some work. But I forgot the batteries to my drill, so I wasn't able to do any work today and film the video because that's part of the video where we're cleaning up the entire power system at the observatory. And so lots of work needs to be done. The serial connections need to go to USB, and the power all needs to go into a single designated hub as opposed to just being all over the place. Wow, the bugs are really bad here. Anyway, it is an absolutely beautiful day. The dog has been going nuts. We just gave her updated tick medicine, which is super important because there is a tick epidemic going on here in Nova Scotia. We've been hearing stories of just dogs going to the dog park and coming back with 20 ticks. Fortunately, we think our property might be okay just because the game trails are pretty far away and you really need deer and animals for those ticks to ride on, for them to spread around. And so I think we might be okay. All right. Anyway, just carrying on the trails here. Hey, everyone that's watching or tuning in. And this is one of my favorite parts of Stargaze Nova Scotia, right up here. This is a plateau that we've reserved for Dalhousie University. And hopefully someday they'll put an absolutely huge telescope up here on this hill. You know, over here we've got the Abbey Ridge Observatory, you know, which is pretty awesome. And the nice thing about it is the skies are dark here. Skies are real dark, so you can collect a lot of quality data really quick. But you know, we could put an even bigger telescope up here and get even better performance. So, but that's, you know, we'll let the universities do that, and I'll keep running my YouTube channel and writing books. So, yeah, lots of news on that front too. So I've spent most of the week interviewing people because I needed a publishing assistant because I've got way too much on the go. And now that I've graduated, I need to start doing the videos again and writing books again, getting back to what sort of brought me to this place in the first place. And so we've definitely, being a full-time grad student, doubling my workload this last semester, was not able to write any new books, was not able to make many YouTube videos at all. In fact, the only YouTube video I made in the last 3 months was really a YouTube video on my progress on the degree in space systems engineering. So, you know, that's the best I could do in terms of YouTube. But we've got a lot of YouTube videos on the books. We've got people sending me stuff like a new electronics package for the observatory, a new power box, and then we've got the USB hub for them. So just really cleaning up that observatory and making it run smoothly. Yeah, a lot of upgrades that we need to make on the observatory itself here. We've already updated the camera from the old S-Big from 2008, so that's going to be a huge upgrade. But we need to get that data running through the pipe. So we actually haven't even done our first light video with the observatory. So we've used it on the moon, and that counted as first light in our solar power video. We did that, but we need to actually go and just take a picture of like an epic galaxy, like M51 or M101, something like that, and just have this like epic a YouTube video that just showcases the amazing images that we'll be able to get from that observatory. So, yeah. So here's Stella here. This is a cool rock statue. So the Dalhousie University students from the Dalhousie Astronomy Club were up here on this plateau maybe a year and a half ago, and they picked up all the rocks because, again, we want to smooth this out, and we want to have Dalhousie University put a really big, fancy observatory up here that the students can use. But again, you need to clean up the top, and so they took all the rocks out of the moss, and they made this, what in Canada is called an Inukshuk. which serves two purposes, sort of like a Karen. Not Karen, annoying lady in America, but Karen, I'm probably not even saying that right. For sailors at sea, they make a big pile of rocks. They put stuff in like maps, and so Inukshuks can serve that purpose. But they can also be used to help scare caribou off the cliff for indigenous people. And we've got someone named Void who's watching on a bus. What country are you in, Void? It's pretty amazing that I can be on a top of a hill in Canada talking to everyone in the world. That is quite impressive. And we've got, if you look at Peggy's Cove, if we were a little higher, you might be able to see it. That is over here, world's most famous lighthouse. And that's why we actually chose this color scheme for the observatory. It's the same colors as that are used on that lighthouse. So anyway, we've got some people watching. Maybe we'll climb up a telescope rise. Someone says, please do a telescope giveaway. We just did. So I don't personally have the ability to organize them, but what my publishers do. And so Sourcebooks, they gave away a C star. So they partnered with ZWO and they had a competition of some sort and they gave away a C star. A couple of reasons I don't. One, we just don't have the budget right now. We're in a very low budget situation with me coming off my graduate school, which I managed to do without getting into any debt so far. We'll see if me taking a siesta that catches up for me. Siesta meaning 4 months of not making YouTube and not writing books. You really got to keep the momentum going on anything in life. You can't stop or things sort of they go downhill, especially now things are changing real fast. Amazing from India, absolute other side of the world. Okay, so the nice thing about this location here is we've got this big valley and that's south, so that's where you're stargazing. When you're watching the stuff rise and fall, the meridian is right here. That's where things are highest in the sky. And so all of these rock outcroppings here, and that one, and this one, we would love to put observatories on. So observatories they could hypothetically rent, which would be great. And so you've got this giant rock, which is probably 500 square feet. It's huge. And so we've got these guy named Wayne, forget his last name, on Facebook, but he's got a company that makes these big plastic clamshell observatories. So I'd love to put one here, love to put one there, put one over on that rock. These are perfect. And then what you would do is you would put little cabins or bunkies, a place where you can sleep, because most people these days are really doing astrophotography. So you can set up your astrophotography rig, or if you're new to astronomy, your C-star or whatever, maybe we can have C-stars that we can just hand out. And then you can sit in your shelter and not get eaten by mosquitoes, which is key. Okay, or whatever's biting my leg. Do a quick tick check here. Okay, tick free, at least on that leg. Okay, moving over. Can I flip the camera? Let's see here. All right, I'm gonna try to go off the trail here. I want to get up onto that rock, somewhere over here. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's slippery. All right, I think this brush is only about 3 feet high. Not so bad. In a few weeks, this is all going to be green and leafy. But winter lasted a long time here in Canada this year, and stuff just did not green. Like, look at this. That's still like winter. There's no leaves on those trees, on the evergreens or the deciduous trees like this one. Now, if you go inland, even 20 minutes away from the ocean, it's been warmer, and all those trees have all their leaves, but we do not. Look at this staircase I made. Quality stairs right here. There we go. Oh God. Try not to fall on my face and hold a phone. I see we've got a solid 8 people watching, which is great. People coming and going. I know I'm not that interesting. That's why I'm better on YouTube, where I can edit myself. I edit my boringness right out of the videos. Okay, let's climb up to the top here. Whew, oh, man, running out of breath. Here we go. There's a dog. I'm just all over it. Boom. Up to the top of the rock. There we go. And here's our, look at this. This is our flag. StargazeNovaScotia.com, the flag. You know what this is for? Put in the comments if you know why this flag is here. And yeah, so it's because that wasn't there, and I wanted something to focus the telescope on. So telescope's over there, little flag here. Please don't jump off the cliff. There's our pond. So it's interesting, the scale is very deceptive. Like, someone's saying shout out my name, but I'm not sure if I can pronounce your name, dude. Last name looks like Dar. Okay, that's a pond, and very deceptive though. I think that's only about 400 feet away. That looks like it's a mile away on this camera. But anyway, there's the dog. This is where we cut our Christmas tree last year. It's something you can do when you have a property like this. Although it takes I'm not going to do that again because it takes forever for a tree to grow up here. Forever. And so these trees are probably, even though they look kind of poopy, they're probably really old and older than you might think, because it's just hard to grow stuff. Like, look under the ground. Here's they moved a road over there, and so you can see we're just sort of on a rock. The trees don't like to grow here, and I don't want to fall. My kids come up here all the time, and it's like, please don't fall. But although I think we should do a video. You keep asking me to say your name. Anu Barada. There you go. Anu Barada. I said your name. Okay, please don't AI me into something goofy. Yeah. So, yeah, so there's our swamp. So we're not allowed to go near that. That's the swamp. Not allowed to go near it. I think we are allowed to build a bridge over it, but that would be a lot of money. There's Stella. Please don't get hurt. Got enough vet bills with her being healthy as opposed to being hurt. Let's see where she's going. Fortunately, her air tag should work up here. There she is. Stella! Here she comes, watch. Uh-huh. We need to get her some water. We got some in the truck. Okay. There we go. Let's see what a selfie looks like here. There we are. Yeah. Beautiful day here. Unbelievable. So I was trying to do, like I said earlier, I was trying to do some filming, which is why I got the video glasses, which I'm hopefully only going to use for filming Learn to Stargaze videos where I'm using both hands and like putting the telescopes together. And before I would put an iPhone like right here and try to direct, but it was really annoying. So I splurged on the glasses, which will hopefully make it a lot easier to produce YouTube videos, because I spend way too much time editing and setting up cameras. And one of the reasons I'm not able to make videos as fast as some of these other guys, it just takes me so long. Whereas you have Dylan and Queeve and Trevor making videos once a week, which is very impressive. Okay. There's a good view. Here, look at this. Just chilling in the wind. Like Mufasa and the Lion King. Right? Let's see what she'll do her commands. Sit. Good girl. If I have any treats. No way. Do I have a treat? That way we can get her to do something. I don't think so. Let's see if she'll do it. Turn around. Turn around. No, can't bribe a dog without treats. Gosh, sorry about the wind here. This is gonna be crazy. Crazy. All right. So we just climbed up this rock, just at the observatory, which I think we should go back to if I can make it without falling on my Yeah, if you fall here, it hurts. And so far, I've never fallen. But I'll show you this stuff. This stuff is deadly. It looks like rock, but you step on it and it moves, and you just slip. And it's always on the steepest parts of these rocks, and you really got to watch out for it because you will go sliding. This stuff too. Like if you step on this, it just lets loose, and then you're down the hill. So yeah, I, I am being careful. Okay, lots of butterflies here. Probably can't hear all the birds. You might be able to hear the cars. In a few months, it's just going to be deafening with ducks and frogs. Ducks and frogs just making a racket while we're trying to do stargazing. Even though like this is Nova Scotia, and we're like, oh, we seem to be very naturey, but I don't think there's nearly as much wildlife here as you get down south. Um, Down south there's all sorts of stuff going on. So yeah, all right, where are we here? Yeah, so another thing that we want permission to do eventually from the city for people that are on a budget is to have camping sites. So we did a test camping site right here, but I think what we might do is move those onto the rocks and just drop some gravel because we really shouldn't be disturbing this scrub brush. You want to leave that stuff alone. It's a nice habitat for snakes and mice and all those friendly creatures that are out here where we're invading their habitat just to do some stargazing. So yeah, so here I'll flip the camera around, got the doggo, and coming back here, this is one of my favorites. I set up a lot of telescopes up here, so a lot of Stargaze Nova Scotia stuff was filmed up here. And again, I came here to do the video, but forgot the battery for my drill. And so I could not get the stuff off the walls. So there's no point in doing all the work I needed to do. So I might as well just pack up and go home. Someone's saying, can I take a picture of Regulus in one of my videos? I've taken pictures of Regulus before. It's just a normal star. Usually, if you're taking a picture of Regulus right now, it's to use for focusing. So just bring back into the observatory here. There's your telescope. There's a little guy. And it was funny when we painted this and we forgot to paint that, partially because it's connected to the mount. But yeah, so this was the debacle today. We got all the stuff to add the new battery, but we need to disconnect this, and I forgot my drill, and I'm not doing it by hand. That would be annoying. So that's what's going on. That and installing these things. So everything in this observatory pretty much is serial like this, and so we have this stuff going all over the place. And this runs like over the floor. It's real annoying. Now we do have most things running under the floor like this. This isn't even being used anymore. So that probably needs to come out. There's probably 12-volt power in there. Our dew heaters, they're on. Got a regulated power supply, but you know, by putting these right by the instruments, we're going to take RS-22 protocol serial in here, convert it to USB, and then we can use these little USB hubs that right on the telescope itself. And we won't need to run these wires the entire length of the observatory. So that'll be key. Yeah, it does look like a spaceship. Yeah, RS-422 is the protocol here, and then USB out. At least that's the plan. So we got the sun just roasting our, yeah, this is kind of cool though. Oh. So we should be able to just go on the computer, hit, for example, dome, and then boom, and then it just moves. Yeah, like that. So stuff is working. We can tell it where to go, tell it to go 50, and it'll just go on a big old hike. But I need to be cautious because up there somewhere, there's a solar panel on the outside, and we need to be able to charge that battery. So at the end of the night, I need to make sure that that battery is in that corner. And actually, should probably close that roof now. So it's just busy thinking about stuff. So I'm going to disconnect that. Disconnect that. There's a garbage bag over the screen just because there was a leak here earlier. So I'm going to disconnect the dome. And then what I'm going to do here is just go to this very high-tech microcontroller box. And I'm going to twist that to put the dome controller back in that corner. That's the shutter controller, not the dome rotator. And then what we can do, we're preparing for another beginner telescope video, so hence all the telescopes in the corner here. Let's straighten this out a bit. All right, well, we need to fix that, that's for sure. Okay, so here's how we close the dome. Come up to this very high-tech, extremely high-tech, it's structural integrity here. And we're just gonna do that. Because this stuff is older than when this stuff first came out. Or sorry, it predates the official things where you could just buy it off the shelf. Back when this observatory was made, you had to make it yourself. And that's just the way it was. Of course, this probably came with the observatory. These look like RV things. So you've got different, they make sliders on recreational vehicles go in and out. That takes about 2 minutes to close completely. There it goes. People are asking if I can give them scopes. I'm not rich, but I would like to do giveaways someday. So basically just everything I make off the YouTube channel, we plow right back into the company. Actually, I've spent way more money on the YouTube channel than it's ever made. And will probably continue to be the case. Okay. So we've got another grocery store scanner up here. Very high-tech mounting mechanism. That one's not working yet, though. It's USB. I climb down off this ladder. Here's how you focus the telescope like this. You can hear it clicking away. Yeah, lots of work. Everything's in progress. Filter wheel, fuses. Okay, so that's locked up. It might be a fun experiment to try to keep the power on. So I think what I need to do is sign off here in a few minutes. And then I'm going to sign in with my Mac computer, log into this computer with remote desktop, and then just see how many days it stays on, which is a good test for me. So the scope is parked, dome is parked. The hope is they don't come on in the middle of the night. That would, if it comes on without our knowing it, that's bad. But basically, it should be okay. The scope is parked because if it moves and it doesn't know to stop, it could just run itself into the pier and break off one of the cameras or something, and that'd be bad. Pretty cool how wow, this looks so small on camera. This thing is huge. This is 2,300 pounds of concrete, and then this thing it doesn't even vibrate when I hit it. It's nuts. Yeah, this is about 300 pounds. of iron. I think this is the top of a radio tower. They just got modified for this purpose. Okay. Anyway. Ooh, right. Now the question is, where's the dog? Oh, there she is. Stella, come on. All right, someone says they have the Astromaster. What would be the next telescope to get? Well, it depends on your goals and your budget. Typical upgrade for stargazing would be a Dobsonian. There she goes. Yeah, so I started with a 60 millimeter scope and went to a 12-inch Dob. Depends on your budget. 12-inch Dobs were $600 when I bought mine, 2010. So there's definitely been some inflation. I started stargazing when I was 27 years old. And 4 years later, I quit my job, got a degree in astrophysics, and was writing books about stargazing. Not astronomy per se, just stargazing, how to see stuff. And they became very popular. And enough that I could move to Canada where it's way cheaper to live than America. Because I was living in California and South Carolina. And so we started writing these stargazing books that were helping a lot of people and just started building that up as a business. And so by translating the books into 10 languages and partnering with other publishing companies, I was able to finish the degree without getting into any debt, which is the key. Getting university degrees without going into debt. And then I wanted to keep getting a master's so that hypothetically I could teach, or you can't do a lot with an astrophysics degree by itself. You need a PhD or a master's at least. And despite it being the most challenging degree you can get, I don't think there's anything more challenging that you can do than an astrophysics degree. Yeah. Someone's saying, didn't you say Canada is cheaper than the US? Rent is too expensive. Depends where you are. So we would want to live in a city. American cities, rent is very expensive. Rent's expensive everywhere in the Western world, anyway. Um, but yeah, whole lot cheaper to live in Canada. Whole lot cheaper. Healthcare specifically with a family. Ooh, yeah. Um, Astronomy Saturn, planning on getting Nexstar 4SE. Yeah, that's a great little scope, the Mac scope for the planets and stuff. Really. Okay, I'm just reading comments here. Sorry to get distracted. As long as there's people asking questions, I'll stay online for a few more minutes before I go mess around with this computer. Is aerospace engineering good for astronomy? So I think aerospace engineering is far more interesting than astronomy in general. Astronomy is the gateway to other things, aerospace engineering being one of them. And but it's harder to make a career as a science communicator doing aerospace engineering because engineering is much more in depth, and you really want a career in it first before you really can do communication about it. Maybe everyday astronaut followed a little bit of a different path where he went uh, deep into rocket engines, how rocket engines work, um, and whatnot. Someone's asking what's the Bortle scale. Yeah, in the city it's 8 or 9. Here I think it's 3. It's pretty dark. If you look at a light pollution map, it's 4. We're supposed to have someone come out and measure it. It's dark. Like as soon as you get out of the car here, you see the Milky Way. You hardly need to wait for your eyes to adjust, or you don't need to wait for your eyes to adjust. So you can see the Milky Way. It's dark. And I think the light pollution maps are rough estimations. And light pollution is surprisingly local. Um, for example, the city is really bright, and the light pollution maps sort of, they go down exponentially with distance. but our city just ends. And it's almost as if the light, when you get out of town, the light pollution just stops. Like usually when you get out of town, the density of the everything gets less and less. The density of the houses and the density of the stores, here they almost just stop. And so when you're 20 minutes out of the city here, there's actually no lights for 20 minutes. And so it gets real dark, darker than I think the light pollution maps online would suggest. So so if anyone's asking for telescope advice, it's you gotta watch the video A Telescope for Every Budget, because a lot of people will be like, hey, I'm looking for a beginner telescope. My budget's $3,000. Well, that's a very different question than if your budget is 200. And so, and most people these days are into some, they want to take pictures of some sort. And usually that means two, two telescopes. Some people don't realize that just how different the hobbies are between stargazing and photography. Um, you either have to choose or you need to buy different telescopes. And if you're on a budget, you would want to get a C star, like a real type budget. Like let's say you had $500, um, then you would get a C star and like a small Dobsonian or something used. So someone's saying with no budget, you know, no budget, you're gonna have the most fun. So no budget, you're into chasing events like solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, meteor showers, northern lights, all that sort of stuff. And those are adventures, and they're actually way more fun than sitting around with a telescope. Telescopes are a tool for a very specific job, and there's different telescopes for different jobs. Like you typically would use a different telescope for planets as you would deep sky objects. They're not, you use different telescopes. And if you're stargazing, there's a different telescope than if you're doing astrophotography. There's a different telescope. If you have to take your telescope somewhere, you're going to want a small scope. If you have it in the same place, you want a big scope. Um, yeah. So someone's in Anders Olsen. Midnight in Trondheim. I assume that's Norway. Yeah, you got to wait until September 16th. Yeah. YouTube until then. Tromsø, so is Norway, right? Yeah. What's a place you want to stay as an astrophotographer, like a village in Canada? I mean, it just depends where you can get to. Every place in Canada, Canada's pretty remote. There's going to be dark skies near every major Canadian city except for probably Toronto. So if you're in Toronto, you'd go north and go to the Lakes District. If you're in Montreal, you can probably go in any direction. Halifax, you could come this way or go to Deep Sky Eye in Yarmouth. Uh, Someone's saying a budget of $100,000. Um, how much have I spent in astrophotography? Uh, Not that much. Because, well, remember, I'm a YouTuber too. So I, some of the stuff I pay for in exchange for videos. So like I might charge X amount of money to do a sponsored video. And then I might say, well, instead of on the invoice, I might deduct the cost of the telescope and just keep it. And they like that. The sponsors like that because it saves them a lot of work. Uh, but we bought the land here, and you can go on the internet and see how much we bought for the land for. Now, remember, I used to live in California, so we sold our house in California because I'm fundamentally my career was in finance, and so I finished a career in finance and got the astrophysics degree, and then kept doing YouTube and writing books, and then the master's at Johns Hopkins that I did just finished. Um, so we had a house in California, and when we sold that, that helped to get the land here. Um, as well as the observatory, and then some stock, right? Like again, I was in finance, wasn't all that great or excited about it, but like I would buy stock in the companies that interviewed me. So we got headhunted a lot in finance, and so this was good stock buying advice because it's not insider information, but it's pretty close. If you get interviewed to get hired on by a startup company or one that's recently gone public, that's a good sign that they're growing, and so you could buy stock in that company. And so I got interviewed by 3 companies. I got interviewed by Tesla, I got interviewed by Amazon, and I got interviewed by Apple about 20 years ago. Tesla, Amazon, Apple. And so I just took a little bit of money, not very much, like one of them was like $500. And so I bought some of that stock in the order in which they interviewed me, and I forget what that was. And so, but as the years went by, I I have 3 kids, and so I'd sell the stock and like pay for their fund their education budget, um, their pre-tax education stuff. And then I used some stock that I sold that I'd owned from forever to buy this observatory. So it's not like I'm using, um, yeah, it's not like I have this vast store of wealth that I'm spending on this. It's like I'm very strategic about what I'm just trading one asset for another. But that's some personal finance talk, which you got me on that topic. No, I won't shut up about it. Okay. Have I ever considered working for NASA? Yeah, I was going to be a budget analyst for NASA in Washington, D.C. We had our house picked out and everything. Now, I was pretty sure I could get that job, even though I forget if I applied or not. Doesn't really matter because we weren't able to sell our house in South Carolina. Didn't put it on the market. It was on the market for like 2 years. Couldn't sell it. And we would need to sell the house in South Carolina to move to Washington, D.C. And I need to move inside because I'm going to get a sunburn. Um, it's in the back of the truck with the dog. Yeah. So, boom, dog. Um, yeah. Okay, I've already addressed the giveaway question. Let's see. What go-to telescope do you recommend with controller? Telescopes, there are no go-to telescopes, really. Um, you typically accept the SE series. Or I guess, yeah, the Evolution series by Celestron. Typically, mounts and telescopes are sold separately. So, yeah. Fly hour wise, South Carolina. Yeah, I lived in Fort Mill, quality town there. Fort Mill, South Carolina. My kids were born in Pineville, North Carolina. Uh, yeah, good time, South Carolina. It was funny. I had an issue with one of my books on Amazon. We had a lot of people buy our astronomy book on Amazon, 50 Things to See with a Telescope for Kids. And a lot of people counterfeit it. So I'm constantly talking to Amazon, and when I get a counterfeit copy and being like, hey, can you please look into this? And yeah, sorry, just reading comments. And but the person that picked up the phone when I called Amazon today, man, black flies are crazy, was from South Carolina, and they were super friendly. It's the friendliest person I've ever talked to at Amazon. Um, yeah, Celestron Nexstar 114. Just make sure the focal length is 400 millimeters. If it's 900 millimeters, don't get it. Um, selling a Bresser Venus 76 700. That is a small telescope right there. Um, yeah. Hopefully you're able to see some cool stuff and it got you into the hobby. Okay, what's this person saying? Astronomy Saturn. Used to have this telescope from National Geographic, only good for looking at the moon. When I tried to look at the planets, did not show up at all. Telescope's $50. Yeah, there's only one Nat Geo scope that I know of that's any good, and that's the 102. A lot of the Nat Geo scopes, most of the telescopes on the market today below 100 millimeters are not designed for space at all. Um, I think the biggest market for telescopes, and this is horrible, but based on what's for sale, the biggest market for telescopes is for people that live in high rises that are pointing at other high rises. That's the only explanation for why there's so many telescopes that are not designed for looking at space. They're designed for looking across at something that doesn't move. And I think I might talk more about that in future videos. But um, hey, Clemson, woo, good football team. Anyway, good times reading the comments. Yeah, so um, yeah, most telescopes are just not designed for looking at space because the people that buy them are not using them to look at space. And so they're buying telescopes designed for terrestrial observation. Again, they're the biggest market, and I assume it's just people that live in giant cities, are, again, they're buying telescopes designed to look from one building to another, and that's why they're not designed to look up. So good stargazing, typically there's something called air mass in stargazing, and so you want to be above 60 degrees. Your telescope's got to be pointed at least this high to look up and have your best chance of seeing galaxies, nebulas, and stuff. So you want to make sure stuff's that high above the horizon. But most of these telescopes, if you just type telescope in Amazon, the telescope does not go higher than that. So it's literally only designed for things that are not in space, like by definition. And if most telescopes, if you see like a 90-degree diagonal is like this, but if it's like that, that, right? Watch me get flagged on YouTube for the middle finger. If it's not 90 degrees, it's not really designed for space. Um, so that's just the way it is. And so a lot of people they comment on my YouTube videos saying I'm having trouble. I'm like, what telescope are you using? What's this? And I'm like, well, it's not really a telescope, it's a spotting scope. And so spotting scopes are not really designed for space. They're designed for, I mean, fundamentally, they're designed for rifle ranges, uh, and only, looking that far. That's where the name comes from. Uh, but yeah, so looking from one building to another, which is not what I'm about. Um, yeah, I also get a lot of crap on the comments about why I don't like the Astromaster EQ telescopes. And yeah, so, and the reason, and oh, people get so mad at me for that I don't like those $100 EQ telescopes. And the reason is that, like, I've had several of them for years, and I find them difficult to use. And I've been using them for a long time. And if I can't get it to work, then I assume that other people are going to have trouble, and they do. But then, yes, some people are just ridiculously intelligent, and especially like this hobby sort of attracts smart people. And so I'm not one of them. And they try to use they learn how to use these EQ telescopes, and they think that anyone can do it, but it's not true. I can't do it. I'm not good at that, and so uh, I don't recommend them. Other people smarter than me can recommend them to their friends who are as smart as them, but that's not me. I'm just not smart enough. And someone's saying you don't need a lens to pair a DSLR with a telescope. No, you don't. You just need an adapter. So the telescope is the lens for a DSLR. Neighbor scope. Yeah, they should call them neighbor scopes. I call them bird feeder scopes, uh, just to be PC. And we did that video, speaking of the DSLR thing, where um, we did how to connect a DSLR to a telescope, or how to connect a camera to a beginner telescope, which was not astrophotography at all. It was just, we did some bird watching in the video and whatever. But that's where we actually went to my neighbor's house and put up the bird feeder in his yard as a bit of a gag. And then we pointed the telescope at that. Yeah. Power Master, Power Seeker. Yeah. Facebook Market, full of those. And they're full of them because they're not able to get them to work. Just the way it is. Um, or they're just, so a lot of people, they sell their telescopes because they're not having fun fundamentally. So you have fun with a telescope when you can see cool stuff. If you've got an Astromaster and it's difficult to see cool stuff, then you're just going to get rid of it. And so that's why you see so many of these telescopes on the market that are just, that's what happened. They're not having fun. And that's why I do what I do. So most of my videos are like, hey, because I do telescope videos on telescopes that I don't like. And usually I say that in the video. Maybe I don't say it explicitly, or I say this telescope's not for beginners, or please don't buy it. Um, if you're thinking of getting your first scope, but then I show you how to use it, especially if you go back to my older videos. Um, yeah. And so, but the reason I do what I do is so that all these people who are uh, having trouble using their telescope, whatever telescope it is, can get some value out of the videos and the books that I've written too. So the books are written, especially the kids one, is like, okay, well, here's how to use any telescope, and here's the things that you can see with any telescope. Like any telescope can see the rings of Saturn. It can. It might not be great if it's like power seeker, but it can see it, right? Um, okay. Do you have a degree in astronomy? I have a degree in astrophysics, which had a lot of astronomy in it, and I have a degree in space systems, which had a lot of astronomy in it. Well, more how spaceships work and astrometrics, but yeah, I have way too much uh, astronomy background. So I probably have way more astronomy than most PhDs in astrophysics, just because of the overlap between working at the observatory and um, and working at the big observatory at the university and looking at a lot of data for space telescopes for school, for grad school at Johns Hopkins. And so I had to read a lot of papers about how space telescopes work, and that taught me a lot of astronomy at a very advanced level, at a high level. So it's like, to understand a space telescope, you understand a lot of things about astronomical objects, like what frequencies you want to look for, um, in the electromagnetic spectrum, for example, or what energies, if it's like black hole or active galactic nuclei, and designing instruments that collect that frequency. So that's where I learned a lot of my astronomy at the master's level. But at the undergraduate level, um, and I took most of the honors classes. The only thing I didn't do in undergrad was honors paper, and I didn't work in astrophysics in my undergrad. I worked as an astronomer at the observatory. So they're different things. So astrophysics is mostly computational, and the classes in the core astrophysics program are typically computational. It's like computational astrophysics is a course. Um, and then mathematical methods for physicists. There's two of those. Then you do electromagnetism. There's two of those classes in an undergraduate astrophysics degree. Uh, so yeah, space systems is all about spaceships. So okay, someone's asking, do I use Starry Night software program? No, I don't. Just too many free ones. The only paid one that I use is Sky Safari, and the reason is that for the books that we write, um, if when the people are reviewing the books and they're checking the data, they're checking it against Sky Safari. So I use that. If for general use, I'm usually using Stellarium and Sky Portal for some YouTube videos, because run um, it'll run some of the Celestron scopes automatically. Okay, next observatory video will be when he remembers his drill. Yeah, that's true. I forgot my drill. I was trying to film it, which is why I bought these glasses at Costco, because in US dollars, the smart glasses at Costco are only 200 bucks, 200 and something. And I use these because, and I put prescription lenses in them from one of those Chinese companies. Uh, it's vastly improves the setup time for filming all the shots. So I don't need to set up a shot anymore for opening a door or attaching something or using a drill. It's on the glasses. Okay. I have a Celestron 6 SE. What's a good eyepiece? Beta or Hyperion. I would get maybe the 24 millimeter version. Um, yeah, that's for general observing, and then a 10 millimeter for planets. Okay. Telview has the best eyepieces, but they are expensive. Yeah, true. That's I'm just reading a comment, not providing advice. What was your first telescope? My first telescope was a 50-inch telescope I bought at CVS Pharmacy for $13.99. And what I don't say in a lot of my biographies, because that's how I saw Saturn for the first time, and it was great. The view was great. Like I said, you can see Saturn in any telescope, and if it's at opposition or something, it's going to look fine. And if it's difficult, your telescope, that's a good test to see if your telescope is difficult, is not very good, is how easy it is to see Saturn. If it's hard, then telescope's not very good. Saturn should be trivial. Um, yeah. Someone's saying, can you make a video capturing different planets with your telescope and how to process the image? Um, so I can do that as a beginner, and that's one thing I need to get better at. I've never perfected planetary imaging to the point where it looks like Hubble. Because if you take someone like Dylan O'Donnell, he can take his telescope, which is the same as mine, and get and the same gear as me, and he can get photo real, like Hubble quality images of the planets. I haven't figured out how to do that. A lot of it's just the software and the time he's putting into it. And so we've got the cameras, we've got the telescope, we've got the dog for company, but he's using WinJupos, so some pretty advanced software, and that is the telescope rotates as you're photographing it, and what that does is when the planet's over here, you get data on this side. When the planet's over here, you get data on the other side, and the software can put it together so that um, you get a quality image of the whole sphere, and so the edges aren't blurry. Um, so that's what he's doing. I think he's using fire capture to capture the data, and he can also edit it in such a way that he's rejecting most of the images. Okay, make a video. Yeah, planets. Just going through the comments. Can you review some refractor telescopes for a budget of $300? Yeah, I did a bunch of those. Those are the 102 series. I probably have 3 or 4 videos on that. Gotta go. Got a cloud-free night. Yes, we also have cloud-free night tonight. Except I will probably be too tired to use set up a telescope. I got 3 kids, early mornings. And so unless I'm really in mode where I'm filming videos and putting on the schedule, it's actually hard for me to stay up. Caveat is that I'm in Canada and it doesn't get dark until really late. That's half the problem. But yeah. Tau 1, is that a good telescope? I don't know. You'd have to put in the specifications. So my general rules for beginner telescopes at low budgets are 100 millimeters of aperture is the minimum. Now, there are tons of telescopes that are amazing with apertures less than 100 millimeters that I love, but they're probably not beginner telescopes. That's the issue. Um, yeah. Can I? So someone's asking about a Max 60. Can you put a finder scope on a Max 60? If it doesn't have a finder scope already, it's probably not designed for space. 60 is super small because the aperture of your telescope determines your resolution. So that's why you really want aperture. Uh, only going small for portability. Yeah, you look like an actor. So I think that's only I get people that say that from no one in the Western world has ever said that to me. So I'm curious to see if you're saying I'm an actor, where you think I'm from, because I have a lot of friends from India, and they're like, "You look like Ryan Reynolds," and I'm like, dude, like I am a 7 out of 10. Ryan Reynolds is punching on also. He's a good-looking guy. Um, that is not me, but for some reason, all my friends from India think me and Ryan Reynolds look alike, which I think is absolutely hilarious. And my wife just laughs at me when I say that. Okay. Your telescope's aperture is 110 millimeters. Wow, I don't even know any telescopes that are 110 millimeters. Um, yeah, love from India. Yeah, a lot of followers on here from India. Um, yeah, totally. I don't know what it is. People from India think I look like Ryan Reynolds. Well, one, he has these glasses, so there's that. Uh, he's in the commercial for them, so maybe it's the glasses. And this iPhones are very flattering in terms of whatever. It's funny when I talk to my mom on the phone, use FaceTime, and I think it's the angle. And she's always like, "Oh, you've gained so much weight." And then I go like this, and I'm like, "Am I skin?" She's like, "Oh, wow, you look like you lost weight." And it's just the angle of the camera. So now I try to hold it up here, and that way I look like I'm in shape. Um, Jeff from India again says, "Please make more videos." I am working on it. Um, Yeah. So I'm trying to hire an assistant right now to help mostly with the publishing side, but also with some of the social media, just so that I can take time to make the videos. I'm doing this video again just because I screwed up. I drove it's an hour round trip here to come out to the observatory, and I forgot the drill that I needed to make this video because I needed to take all the batteries off the wall and insert another battery and put them all back up again. But Forgot my drill. Watch it be like right here on the chair, and I didn't forget it after all. But anyway, yes, Ryan Reynolds is Canadian, but um, where he lives in Canada, from me, like uh, Italy would be closer. Like Canada is that big. It is very far. Yeah, yeah. Someone is saying they're from India. Inflation is very high. Power Seeker 50 AZ. No, remember aperture determines the clarity of your view. And so 50 AZ, yeah, you might be able to see Saturn and the moon, but that's it because you're limited in terms of the clarity of the image. And dark sky matters a lot, but at 50 millimeters, binoculars are um, you're gonna want to use binoculars at that aperture and find dark skies. Apertura 88, Gordon Born. Apertura 80. I reviewed the Apertura 6. In fact, you might have saw it just sitting in the observatory there. Yeah, it's great. If you've got Bortle 9, you'll see everything. If there's a target in an astronomy magazine and you've got Bortle 9 and an 8-inch telescope, that's it. You can see everything. Just make sure like there's no moon and no clouds. Okay. Well, it seems like people are enjoying this call. Sometimes, like I was just on IG Live and I did a talk. No, it was like it kept alternating between nobody's watching and one person's watching. And it seems like this has been pretty consistent. Had 20 people watching the whole time. It's been great. Um, yeah, so if you guys liked it, say so, and maybe I'll do more of these. Someone saying have Bortle 6 inside Jupiter's cloud belts. Yeah, Bortle is not going to affect Jupiter at all. If anything, more clouds and more light pollution would make Jupiter better. Um, what's your favorite object in space? I like seeing other people see Saturn. That's my favorite. When if I've got a telescope set up and other people are lined up and they're seeing telescopes, amazing. Or sorry, they're looking at Saturn, absolutely amazing. Uh, we're hitting an hour here. My wife is about to start texting, wondering where I am. I didn't tell her I was here at the observatory. There's the puppy. Um, you gonna come in? She might need some water. It's funny. It's 25 degrees Celsius in the city, but I think it's only about 15 out here. Only warm at all because it's in the sun. Um, Orion Nebula is my favorite. Yeah, I think I screamed when I first saw the Orion Nebula in a Dobsonian. Um, I was like, "What? No way!" And I was like yelling at my wife to come see, and she's like, "I don't care." Um, yeah, yeah. Also, so my wife was in the house too, and we had someone else. I was at my in-laws. And I set the Dobsonian for the first time. This is back in 2010, I think. And so 15 years ago now. And there's a friend of my mother-in-law's was in the house, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen through a telescope." And I'm like, "You got to see this. You got to see this. Come look." And she's like, "No." And she's like, "I don't need a telescope to see God's beauty." And I was like, "But it's in the telescope." And she's like, "No, I don't want to see it." I was so sad that she didn't want to see it. Um, yeah. First planet I saw with my telescope was Saturn. Saturn is amazing. What's the deepest space object you've seen? Just galaxies, dude. Galaxies are real far away. Um, and then I think there's a quasar. I don't know if I've seen it with a telescope, but that would be the farthest thing you can see, even with a university telescope, I think. So, yeah. And that's when a supermassive black hole's jet is pointed right at you. Active galactic nuclei. Black holes eating stuff, forming jets of radiation that come out the top. Could have got that wrong. It's been a while since I studied quasars. But anyway, all right. I'm going to sign off. It's been an hour. You guys have been amazing. Like and share the video. Subscribe. If you want to help me out, pick up my telescope books, 110 Things to See with a Telescope, and write a good review. Definitely need some reviews on those. 50 Things to See with a Telescope for Kids. That's my favorite. We just released another version, an updated version of that. We replaced all the photos with color photos or illustrations of the constellations. So there's that. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Uh, we will catch you later. Ciao.